Here's one from Sherry. How many ascension timelines are there? 1. Did the eclipse energy change energy or merge them like Magenta Pixie described in her Mandela Effect video? No. So no and no. Now I can expand on no and no. There is only a single ascension timeline. And whatever Magenta says is her point of view, and you're asking me my point of view, as long as you separate the emotional connectedness between what you wanted my answer to be, you'll understand why I said no. I see all timelines. There were timelines that were shut down and new timelines that were opened. And they are regularly taking people on this timeline and putting them on other timelines because they no longer serve this timeline. But there are times when you put them on the other timeline, they shape up and suddenly come back onto this timeline. That is what is going on now, the separation of densities, the bifurcation. There are some that get yanked out of the reality and go, shit, I make it up, I'm doing my work, and they get back into the reality. So there are new ones being opened, there are parallel ones being opened. It is far more than what one person is saying. Again, I'm challenging you at the scale and size at which you think. There is a surface world, a subsurface world, and an astral world that all use their own signature frequency form of time that is completely independently separate and not codependent on any other frequency of the time. Our world, human world, global narrative world, is dependent and codependent on Roman numeral time. If you understand the dependency and codependency of Roman numeral time, you understand why there's such a limited way to explain what a timeline is or isn't. Linear time itself was created solely for this reality, solely for this galactic ascension machine. It does not exist in any other place. It is what was created to resolve repetitious paradoxes in which our celestial process or arm of the galaxy, our star cluster, was stuck in a repeating pattern because we had uncreated our section of the galaxy, which uncreated the section of the universe in the perception of time of lineage-based beings who were battling themselves to prove what era of light was more potent. There is a string of time that comes from ancient eras that is still a small thread within our thread of our timeline that is still 10 trillion times more potent than any of our surface beings, because at that time beings had a whole different light era function. So until light mechanics are truly understood, these are pontificating philosophers pontificating in word salads. That will be another good one. And that's not meant as an attack.
Hello?
808, are you there? Is your area code 808? Is your area code 808?
Yes, it is.
Okay, your name and where you're calling from?
Hi, Andrew. My name is Darcy, and I'm calling from Hawaii.
Hi, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing very good. How can I help you today?
I don't know. I just woke up and I couldn't find your to listen live on my iPad, so I called in from my phone.
Okay. So you want to get a reading today?
Sure.
Yes. Andrew Facebooked me today and told me to give.
Hey, ma'am, I'm on another call with 808. You'll have to mute your mic. Okay, 808, I'm going to give you a reading. What I need you to do is tell me about your first 10 minutes of the day. Be as specific as possible about when you first woke up. And you need to give me about 45, 50 seconds out loud, and I'll be able to tune into you. What I'm doing is tuning onto the infinite you, turning into the finite you.
Okay, I just woke up, so I basically just brushed my teeth, made coffee, and opened up my windows, and that's about it. I just woke up maybe 15 minutes ago.
Okay. Did you dream last night?
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay. What did you dream about? I'm trying to tune into you, and you've got to give me just a little bit more vibration energy here.
It's really funny. I dreamt that I was walking with Sylvester Stallone. I don't know why.
All right, I've tuned into you, and this is the first layer of energy that's coming to you from the sun. As the sun rises each day, it brings you a new layer of information. As the sun goes down, you respond to what you've learned from this layer of information, and many of this is in the subconscious higher spirit frame, unless you're tuned into the spiritual you. And this represents the spiritual path that you're on, and the type of energy that's standing up in the flower of your crown chakra is known as the arrow of truth. There's a layer of truth energy that is coming out of your crown chakra, and it's protecting you from layers of energy that are not true. When you were growing up, did you have somebody that was very dominant of you and tried to enforce their perspective?
Yes, my father.
Okay. Well, right now that energy is beginning to saturate you. He is going through a very, very hard time, and the way your spiritual contracts are related, whenever he goes through a tough time spiritually, his negative spiritual contracts and the fine print in him makes him impress energy on you so he can extract energy from you. And this is something you must understand is on a spiritual contract level, and he's not doing it to harm you. And you must begin to free yourself of this energy and begin to empower yourself to understand that there's a new layer of speaking energy that are coming through you. And this layer of speaking energy is very important, and this energy is going to be called the talking stick. A talking stick is where you receive the energy from the spirit world that's protecting you through your crown chakra, so you can open yourself up to the second layer of reflections in yourself. The first layer of reflection is a spiritual you who's gone on for the last 7 years in the spiritual process, but ultimately when you reflect upon yourself at the highest level, it's about you understanding that the great smoking mirror is coming to you. The great smoking mirror is identified as a marker stone in history, and this marker stone in history is going to help expand and explore your manifesting concepts that are in you. Are you understanding this?
Yeah, I do.
So you're understanding what this concept is about, and I have a couple questions for you. Have you been recently sick?
Have I what?
Been sick recently?
Not really. I mean, in January, I was sick with a virus, a cold that wouldn't go away, and I missed a lot of work. But besides that, I've been pretty healthy.
All right. Are the fires that are going on around you cyclically affect your breathing? It's like they're burning forest or something on a cyclical basis. This is the energy that I'm getting from you.
No, I mean, you mean like fires on the ground, like on Maui?
Is that where you're at in Maui?
I'm on the island of Maui, yeah.
All right, so then you have regular fires there when they burn the sugar canes? So 808, do those cyclical fires affect you?
Not really. I mean, my breathing's pretty good. It affects, I don't like the smell too much, but other than that, it doesn't really affect me.
Okay. Well, what I'm sensing, it is actually affecting you. The burning of the smoke is causing a backup in your crown chakra. And this is on a spiritual level. And what's going on here, you're going to have to clean out your crown chakra and begin to do strict smudging on your crown. Do you ever do smudging?
I've never heard of it.
That's where you take a sage stick and you have the smoke that goes all over you. You've never seen anyone do anything like that, a sage or an incense stick?
Yeah.
Well, you need to start doing this with yourself, and you need to use words that are going to be expressive, because right now your crown chakra is being heavily affected by the negative cell phone energy in your area. You also need to start turning off your wireless devices when you sleep, and it's starting to severely affect some of your spiritual outcomes, and it's limiting your total potential right now. And then you're in a manifesting state right now where your actual menstrual cycle is aligned with the moon cycle and the tidal cycle, so you're set for a really big awakening here. And it can be very overwhelming if your crown chakra is clogged.
Wow. Because I do sleep with like my iPad next to me, my phone, so that makes sense. You
need to turn those all off. Everything. You need to turn all of that off.
Wow. Interesting. Well, thank you, Andrew.
So the first concept that they're showing me in your dream world is you're sharing space with 3 other women, and you're sharing a moment of peace and solitude. Each woman's in a basic ceremonial garb. Each one has a prayer pipe of inner peace. Each one has a talking stick, and each one is adorned with the moon lodge symbols on their ceremonial vestments. And what this is the sacred feminine is in 3 layers in you. The first layer of the sacred feminine is the person that prays to the universe. The second sacred feminine is the one who understands the viewpoints and options that the universe is telling back to her. And the third part is the ceremonial concept of the retreat of women into women alone. And the concept of women into women alone is modifying the sacred feminine, so you may understand that the very you that's here is the sacred feminine. The very you that's here is the one expressing your options. And it is within your personal, external, and internal prayers that create things on a very large level spiritually. So the energies of the co-creative feminine are here for you now. And these energies of the co-creative feminine are about you understanding that you have soul sisters that are trying to teach you now. And these soul sisters are sitting with you in your dream world, teaching you, bringing wisdom and knowledge to you. But it's the you of now that has to convert it into the aware message. You understand what I'm saying there?
Yeah, probably on more than one level.
How about this one? Is the moon real or is it artificial?
Oh, wow. I've talked about the moon so many times. Oh, wow. The moon is a real moon. It's one of the oldest objects in our existing universe, and it is a marker place. It is a hollow moon. It does have what's called a unity consciousness drive. So if there's a unity species living on the surface or in the hollow, it can move. It's not currently moving because it's acting like a massive United Nations for the inter-universal community to come here and witness through experiential observation of what is going on Earth. It is essentially the pay-per-view audience to see how we go through change. And if other beings in other universes want to use what we've done here as a template to create even deeper change in their own expressions. The moon has been battled over for millions of years because they knew deep in the future it would be used as this observational post for universal beings and trying to understand what was going on in all these time war expressions we had.
All right, I'm going to take us from the ground into just beyond the moon, and then Rebecca can go from there. I want everybody to just relax and look out the top of your skull, your crown chakra. There's an eyeball looking up, and that eyeball's like a kite. And that energy goes up and up and up, but that kite is attached to the ground, and that ground has roots that go deep into Mother Earth's heart. And that heart beats, and every time it beats, it takes you higher upon higher upon higher until you're out of the clouds. And you see the moon and you see the sun. And at the moon's line, as you decide where in the cosmos you want to go, your brother and sister planets. This energy is building to you like the jack and the beanstalk, growing and growing and doing, solidifying your anchor so you can understand the galactic brothers and sisters that are out there. From the great macro scale of the planets to the micro scale of the amoebas, we have the opportunity to experience, co-create, learn, and observe as sacred mutual auditors. I see things from a dreamtime perspective as well as a remote view perspective. The moon is a hollow, as is our planet is hollow, but it's hollow for those people that are on a higher dimension. On third dimension, Earth is a molten core for those that are third dimension understanders. For those that are fourth dimension, it is an energetic spot where you can go and exist and co-create. And the moon was an object given to our planet. Our planet was originally a galactic nursery planet, and the moon was the place stuff went off the planet and what allowed to exist in zero gravity so it can be climatized to other events. When you say you see plants and water inside there, it is, because the moon was meant to move between the parts of the galaxy so it could be like a delivery system for the plants or animals that it was going to seed onto new worlds that were being created by these higher dimensional beings. The moon is also a great shield for this planet, though it's been destroyed in the various conflicts that were here, and that shield was to protect it from the galactic energies of 3 different galaxies. Think of the moon as the linchpin of 3 belts that are going in a circle on a piston, and the moon's energy kept the Earth locked in place. And as that system in there broke, Earth was given its freedom.
Right. I've been having a thought. We're a planet in a solar system, or we're on a planet in the solar system. Our solar system is presumably in another solar system of a larger star, etc. How many et ceteras are there to the galaxy? How many levels down are we in the, if it was, do you get my point? How far away in terms of stepping down the energy from the center of the galaxy are we?
Okay, if you were to look at our solar system, let's say our solar system had enough sentient energy to say that it wants to become a new galaxy. Is that what you're saying? What's the scale?
No. What I'm saying is, right, okay, so the energy of the center of the galaxy, transmits itself out to a group of stars around it. Those stars relay the energy to the next set of stars, and so on, outwards towards the rim.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Each
and you want to know how far away?
Yeah. How many of those nodes are we away from the center?
We're on the very edge of 3 different galaxies. The very, very leading edge. Imagine 3 circles that barely just intersect, their lines intersect on the very edge. We're in the dead center of where 3 circles would intersect.
All right. So not only are we on the outer spiral arm of the Milky Way galaxy, we're on the outer spiral arm of 2 other galaxies. Is that right?
Correct.
All right. So what are the other 2 galaxies?
The Sirius galaxy and the Andromeda galaxy.
All right. So Andromeda's not far away.
Nope.
And is this when? Oh, hang on a second. Are these galaxies colliding, or they just happen to be here at this moment? What's the deal?
You got to look at it in a perspective of let's say on a map, instead of a 2-dimensional map, you got to see it as a 3-dimensional map. So let's say the Milky Way is the x-axis, the Andromeda's the y-axis, and the z-axis is the other one. And you do it in a manner where only on one side of the map do one little corner of all 3 of them intersect, and that's where the solar system would be. Right. They're not actually interacting, like the very, very edges of their magnetic fields. Mm-hmm. And Earth is in the smack dab in the center of that. Perfectly placed there on purpose so it could be a beachhead for all 3 of the galaxies. That's why Earth is so important, because it is a seed galaxy, seed planet.
Okay, so does that mean that these 3 galaxies are accelerating away from the point where we are?
I'm saying that Earth in our solar system is a ship that is on a path that keeps it in that little gap. Sometimes it pops out to one side a little bit more, sometimes it pops out to the other side a little more, so on and so forth.
So we are dealing with 3 galactic planes?
Yes.
Yeah, well, okay. And so, yeah, so what you're saying is like Sirius belongs to one of these galaxies, and Alcyon belongs to another galaxy, and Andromeda belongs to another group of the galaxies. Is that right?
Yep.
And these galaxies are merging together.
No, they're not merging. They're not really.
They're in a divergent trajectory.
They're constantly in attract repulse mode, but they're never going to collide.
All right.
Their central suns are repelling each other. Their just arms are going through that fluxing motion of staying together.
Right. So again, this comes to the back to the. Hang on a second. All right. So those are three galaxies in the three-dimensional universe. In the five-dimensional universe, are these galaxies existing in one place?
Good question. No, they're existing in many places.
Right.
Earth is a convergence of sentience also. So
Earth is really like a bunch of doorways.
Yes, it is the doorway to everywhere.
Yeah.
With the gene stock for everywhere. The greatest prize of all of the universe.
So, who wants my genes?
Exactly. Who wants your genes? Not your blue jeans or your acid wash with holes in them.
Yeah. Yeah. So that sounds like an interesting future.
The moon is also a great shield for this planet, though it's been destroyed in the various conflicts that were here, and that shield was to protect it from the galactic energies of three different galaxies. Think of the moon as the linchpin of three belts that are going in a circle on a piston, and the moon's energy kept the Earth locked in place, and as that system in there broke, Earth was given its freedom, and its freedom to co-create in its own divine and to be set free into the three galaxies. And there are things behind the moon. I mean, you've described stuff that you see, and I mean, it goes on and on and on. Inside the moon itself, there are two massive crystalline objects that have been embedded there, and these are when ascended masters of other planets die. A lot of them have missions. And that mission is to make sure knowledge, wisdom, and education is spread to the other species. So when they pass on, they become a crystal. I mean, like an actual knowledge crystal. And there will form into big groups, or several dozen will pass on into a crystal. And they'll make a hive mind of knowledge and wisdom. And these are inside the moon. And these are our schools that many of us experience in dream time.
Well, no, it's a standard question. How do you know you're talking to an ascended master? You don't. Unless they prove that they have the ability to remain in sacred neutral, vibrate at the frequency of the Akashic record, and they will immediately represent their hive organization, because one ascended master is all ascended masters. They're in unity outside of this dimension and time space, trying to get us all to work together, who are in a bunch of different polarities. So the ascended masters are trying to herd the feral cats, and we're the feral cats. So if this feral cat goes, I'm not a feral cat no more, hey, Mr. Ascended Master, that's not just you, Saint Germain. Every Ascended Master that's ever been on this planet is a part of your hive of who you are. And your whole purpose is to figure out the way to get all the feral cats to agree that, you know, you can all share the ball of string. So yes, can I talk to Ascended Masters? You're never talking to one. That's the first thing to go by. If you want to project that it's Saint Germain or project that, that's fine. But it's all of them. And the same thing with the angels. It's all of them at once. But we, as this frequency time thing, need something to anchor in this reality to give it what? Our belief. That's justice and judgment, isn't it? So if a being is true and neutral and it's a sovereign thing, how can you be in judgment of it? But that's the next layer of that question. How can we be a judgment of a being that chooses to be a false light being? In unity, no one is left behind. In unity, there is no justice and judgment. There is remedy and resolve, because time and money debt is not the factor. When we take those out of the basis, our ability to judge the foundation of all beings as whether being good or bad by a title calling them Ascended Master, yes, this dimension and time stream has really bastardized that word. The propaganda industry needed to do it. Otherwise, people would be mass awakening, walking away from the government, and there would be no New World Order. So naturally, they're going to go and corrupt all of those different things. And I'll let you on a little backstory. Last year, I met over 100 people who believed they were Saint Germain, and they were the only Saint Germain in the world, and every other one of them were crazy. 50 Mary Magdalens, another 100. I cannot even begin to tell you. Every year, somebody thinks they're Jesus. Somebody thinks they're Saint Germain. Somebody thinks they're Jeshua. No, you're not. You're not. The Ascended Masters cannot be in this world. They were kicked out. They cannot incarnate here. They are ephemeral. And only their teachings survive. And it is the teachings that are misunderstood and misguided and put into the hands of zealots. There are Ascended Masters out there that are going, motherfuckers, they're impersonating me. I never said that. But we in this dimension and time stream who are in justice and judgment make labels. But sometimes those labels are for positive, sometimes they're for negative. Guess what? We can't change people's views. If I want to spout Ascended Master 90 times on a show, I can, but I don't. Why? The Ascended Master's days are over in this dimension. They're waiting for us to finish so they can go on to the next experience and not have to deal with all of our traumatic bullshit. Because we are the next Ascended Masters, so that the next 7 generations actually have space to live, love, learn, and prosper. Without war, without hatred.
When Ascended Masters of other planets die, a lot of them have missions. And that missions is to make sure knowledge, wisdom, and education is spread to the other species. So when they pass on, they become a crystal. I mean, like an actual knowledge crystal. And they will form into big groups, or several dozen of them will pass on into a crystal. And they'll make a hive mind of knowledge and wisdom. And these are inside the moon. And these are our schools that many of us experience in dream time. And there are 2 separate ones that teach us the co-creating value of the dream time and the co-creating value of experiencing and exploring the 3rd and 4th dimensional parts of our galaxy. It's where you will get your passport and the right and honor to be a co-creator among the stars. It'll mean you've respected yourself enough to stay healed so you can heal others. It'll mean that you won't have political dogmas and concepts that dominate your very life, because you understand that all life is sacred and all life needs opportunity to expand and explore. And the moon is our waypoint off this planet as the great migration of souls begins and the event unfolds and we learn our galactic history. I have very similar information to that, except that as early as 6:30, there were groups that were going there, but they were very small groups. And other than the Blue Bloods, there were other groups here, but many of them were annihilated early on in the history for control here. So I just wanted to verify who they was at that point, because each generation had a few that attempted and succeeded too. I've said this on other shows. This solar system has been moved 12 times. The planets that we have here right now, the highest dimensional beings have been doing the planetary chessboard. And this moon is what allowed those various planets to co-create in our solar system to be anchored here, and so that their dreamtime realms wouldn't dream those planets back to their original points in their original galaxies. We're at the linchpin of 3 galaxies and intersecting, and the great and higher forces needed the highest energy spirits and highest technology of people to lock the 3 galaxies into a karmic motion so they can exchange it on a great level and expand and explore each other. And the moon was that linchpin, and Earth was the galactic nursery that everybody would be sucked into, and then go through the incarnation rules here so we could do what? finally get passports, go to the moon, adapt to our consciousness. Inside the moon itself is a crystalline city that is out of phase of reality, and that out of phase reality is the dream world that's for the moon. The moon was created by a Dreamtime society, people who manifested out of the dream world and manifested an object literally, from one universe to this universe, so that this universe can have an experience of the infinite energy of co-creation. So it made this system, this mobile planet. Many, many other planets in our galaxy are mobile planets, but this one, inside it, its consciousness, its third eye, is us here on the planet, because we all share incarnation rituals and rules with it. And the Native Americans call it the Moon Lodge, or the Night Lodge, because that's where you go in your dream time. You have a dream time here on Earth, and then you have the Moon Lodge time, which women have the extra point to, that it comes through your womb cave when you have children. For baby spirits to come from other galaxies and other universes, they stop at the moon, and they go through their nursery time there as they plan their incarnation rituals and rules. And for those of us that want to reawaken that being that's in that moon, we simply need to step into the out-of-phase city, either through remote viewing, remote projection, and we do it out of love and understanding that our 7 future generations, that's their gateway to us, through our dreams, through our moon, to our planet, to our incarnation cycle, and then repeating it. The moon has, think of our precession of the equinox. If you look at our planet, you got that wobble on the top. Well, the moon has what's called a quad wobble, and that creates 4 different sound waves. And that 4 different sound waves has 8 points in the spherical communication. That 8 points creates a harmony. So depending on the type of vibration that your soul is, if you're 3rd, 4th, 5th, or 6th, you'll sing to that chorus differently and access the galactic records of your incarnation rules. It's like intermediate area where you can understand your soul on a higher level before you project on the planet and deal with the final incarnation contracts that you create. It's the place between places, but it's an ambassadorial place, as many other species have energetic homes on there, because the moon has capacity to manage even 9th dimensional beings. In one aspect, it's like a hotel, spaceship, cruise liner, galactic ascension machine, and I could keep going and going and going, but whoever you are, wherever you are in multiple versions of universes, you could live on this place, and there's several thousand layers of that people could exist in. The moon that we have now, actually, like where we're at in the galaxy, is where it was found. And they brought us to this moon. So this is a little different piece to the puzzle to understand here. When they were assembling this solar system, they were attempting to find the most powerful galactic mind planets that were one stage away from being 9th dimensional planets where they could become stars. So they found a young star and some very dominant planetary minds. And they brought them all here and they made this solar system. And because the moon was existing here, when they were doing it, there was a battle, and they used our original moons to stop anybody from following them, because this was in such an unusual place in space. Once they got here is when the people of Earth were going through the beginning of this galactic nursery phase, where they were creating large-scale DNA things, from plant life to amoeba life to sand to water, and they were going to make a galactic truck and just start filling up planets all over with life form from Earth, because Earth was the womb planet. And the moon was its brother protector, because it, as I said, had an energy about it that allowed souls from 3 separate galaxies to come here and make contracts in which they never could before, because they were separate galaxies. It's like the galactic ambassadorial meeting place of soul groups, and this was the place that they could begin to exchange karma so they could coexist and co-create together. And the lower technology species didn't understand what was being done here, and the battle was fought for resources and technology, but in reality it was about bringing all of these galactic entities together.
have another question. I have so many. All right. How about did Neil Armstrong walk on the moon? Did we ever go to the moon?
We went to the moon, and did Neil Armstrong land on the actual moon?
Yes.
Not on the actual live one. That's the better answer, but he did land on that moon.
No, wait a minute.
Not on the live one, though.
What does that mean?
They went many more times than they described.
Oh.
And what they discovered there on the moon was remnants of old civilizations that were very reflective of living here on Earth. They also discovered that were pockets of atmosphere on certain parts of the moon and pockets of no atmosphere, hundreds of different environmental types. Ice, they found liquid water, they even found life there, crystalline life that reflected the peoples that were coming forth.
So the actual broadcast was fake, but they did
No, the broadcast was live. From an orbiter, but it wasn't the footage. The footage was prepared before they even landed.
Ah, okay. All right.
Mad Painter is up next. How you doing today?
Oh, man, I wasn't ready. I was expecting you to take the other callers.
I'm just taking them in the order that they came.
I was just wondering if we got what's called a supermoon coming up. Are you aware of it?
Oh, yeah, I'm very aware of it, and people are beginning to be affected by it big time.
That's what I wanted to ask you about. What it was going to possibly do to affect us?
Well, first thing it's going to do, as it comes, it's going to create waves of energy, and these waves of energy, its purpose is to shake people that are sleeping in their bed, quite literally. And as you begin to get these waves of energy to come into you, you'll either have chills, cold chills, or you'll have shivers, or you'll find yourself in an uncertain state because all this energy is around you. And you'll see it in nursing homes. The people in nursing homes will act crazy. And in schools, kids will be acting really weird. They are the first mirror of how the energy is going to affect the area around you. Have you noticed anything weird in your family or the people you work with?
Oh, I live in a weird world.
Welcome to my world.
So you know what I'm talking about. I mean,
oh, yeah.
The people that you hang with are kind of out of the ordinary. So I don't notice it as much. Now, I have noticed my dreams have been different. Well, you're getting more different.
Your dream world is going to be affected first because the energy of the supermoon is literally empowering you to have deeper dream experiences. And that's the trick to the supermoon. If you know what it's going to do, you can be prepared to have wonderful dream experiences. And that's about you challenging yourself before you go to sleep to remember and to be a part of your dreams. And saying out loud to yourself in a self-expressive prayer, a non-spiritual prayer, that I want to be a bigger part of my dream world. And empower your aura to experience that. And then the waves of energy coming from the supermoon will amplify all of that expressive energy you're having.
Interesting. Thank you. I knew you know I don't do well with my dreams. That's why, and then something about this moon just hit me this morning. So
it hit you for a reason, actually.
Right, and I wanted to see if I could get some kind of.
There is a reason, and it's because there's a past life event for you that's coming up, and it's related to the War of 1812, actually. And you were in a very big battle that ended on a supermoon. And you lived this battle, but you lost tremendous amounts of friends. And you lost so many friends when you looked up at the supermoon, you asked, why, universe? Why did this war have to happen? And that's what's coming up for you, the life that you live now. Why does this war have to happen? Why can't we have peace? Why can't we get along? And that's what's being transmitted to you now, is that person who walked away from the battlefield and just went into the wilderness and was forgotten. Simply walked away from the world.
That's interesting. Right? I appreciate you answering.
Look at the life that you've lived today and understand that you didn't walk away from the world this time.
I'm trying to get more involved. That's why I'm not
exactly.
the station. You know?
And that's the reason that this supermoon's beginning to hit you, because there was a time you could have walked away. you didn't. Now you're here with all of your force of will, all of your wisdom, and saying, no, we're going to end this.
That's the hope, anyways, isn't
Right.
it?
It's the hope.
All right, I appreciate you talking with me, Andrew. You
You're
have
welcome.
a great show. The last caller there, the guy was something else, I'll tell you.
Oh, yeah, he's outstanding.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome. .509, your name and where you're calling from?
Steve, and from West Richland, Washington.
Hi, Steve from West Richland, Washington. How can I help you today?
Oh, I just feel like I'm been preparing for a big change coming up, and I'd like to help people go through it and everything, and just wondering if there's some more steps I should take.
Okay, how'd you find out about the show?
I just have been listening to Revolution Radio, and don't know much about you, but you sound pretty interesting, like you're really tuned in.
Huh? This is your first time listening to the show?
Yeah, just 10 minutes ago. I've heard you explain the last two people, and that was really interesting. Telling them about their past lives.
Okay. Well, the way this works, I need you to tell me about your first 10 minutes of the day and be as detailed as possible when you first wake up. And you only do that to about 45, 50 seconds, and what I'm doing is tuning into the infinite dream world of you that has to go through the hourglass to be the finite you. So even if it's just, you rubbed your eyes, you got the coffee, just tell me about that first 10 minutes, and I'll tune into you.
I've been having a lot of big dreams, like 2 or 3 different stories the last couple of nights, and so I've kind of woke up and reviewing the last one. I can't really remember it, but it was kind of changing as I was going through it. I was kind of interacting with it a little bit, and that's about all I remember. I was just preparing for the day and thinking what I should be doing in the next couple months.
All right, I've tuned into your energies, and
Okay.
the first thing that's coming forward for your energies is what's called the returning home to the spiritual you. There is a you that's inside of you that's been separate of you for some time, and that you was purposely separated at a very young age so that the you of the now would get to re-experience the you of then. And this separation is something that was caused at your childbirth, actually. You were contracted to have a twin brother, and that twin brother didn't make it in this lifetime. He was netted by the dark forces before he was able to incarnate into a fetus, and therefore you grew up alone. And so the secondary you that's coming home is now bringing you the concept of grace of the spirit energies of having a twin energy here. And that twin energy is going to act as a basically psychic medium, but it's going to be a separate you that is you. You understand this?
This is all new to me. Keep going. I'm writing it down.
Okay. There'll be a recording of this, and you'll be able to listen to it in the Revolution Radio archives. So you'll be able to listen to it again. And the grace of living is about understanding that you're letting go of personal political dogmas and concepts to allow the synchronicities of life to open up. And the second energy that's coming through is the dream time energy. You've been a dreamer in many, many, many lifetimes. And the type of dreaming energy that's coming forward is trying to help you go through the talking and explaining of these dreams so that the physical you can translate it into 3D matrix linguistics. But you're having a very, very tough time understanding why the talking stick is being offered to you at this time. There's a series of viewpoints and options in your life that have been yet to be fully explored. And these viewpoints and options have been limited by some of the life events that you've had. Right away what I sense is your mother and father commonly argued amongst themselves, and you were stuck in between it like a sponge of energy. Understand what I'm saying?
A little bit. They didn't argue too much, but they were kind of negative about other people.
Okay. Well, you are a sponge to that energy, and I call that energy psychic vomit. And this is an unhealed part of you that really needs to go through a release
of that energy so that you can understand that the new part that's coming to you was supposed to be there with you to help divert some of that psychic vomit energy. When you reached into your puberty age is where the energies really tripled up on you. So an odd look by your mother was 10 times amplified on an empathic level. I mean, you walk into the room and you can get a sense of the way the room feels. You're an empathic person, and that's the basic of your psychic talent. Well, that's amplified many-fold when you have psychic vomit all over you and you have no realization that's there. So literally you're supposed to have half the amount of energy that's on you, but you don't because your twin wasn't allowed to come in the incarnation process. So this for you is your personal vision quest to get to the healing point where you can shed off the old energies so that the twin energy can come into you and literally be a medium between the two worlds that you have to live in. Quite literally. It'll be a perfect spirit guide that has all the spiritual talents you want to learn this life, and he will begin gifting you those spiritual talents the more you go through the self-healing process.
Okay.
I mean, what's going on in your life now? Have you recovered from being, what's going on in your life?
I think so. I just tried to shed off any negativity, and so I think I've gotten rid of all of it. I don't know.
I'm going to give this description to you in the terms of a car. Every now and then you have to change the plugs and wires and battery.
Okay.
And the oil. This is what you need to do. You essentially have a 50,000, 10-year bumper warranty. Your warranty was run out, and now the only thing that can repair it is your own self-invested energy. You need to change your plugs, your wires, your oil, and you need a new set of tires. Your body is still sound, your mind is still sound, the engine is still sound, but the functional mechanical aspects of you need to have new energies brought in so that you understand that the bad coat of paint you have on your surface needs to be changed. I mean, it's like you're painted a crappy color that, you just don't like, and you've been, it's like you have a house that's painted a color you don't like and you wait 10 years to paint it again. But you're not going to pay anyone else to paint it. You're going to do it yourself, and that's where you're at on a metaphorical concept. You've got to get the psychic vomit off, and this come to you counting the victories in your life and going through ceremonial time where you add up all the positive things that you've done in your life, all the victories of the negative things that you've overcome to raise your energy so the psychic vomit is rejected, because a lot of this vomit is literally around your liver, around your stomach, and around your lungs. And when it gets that deep into you, you can barely notice it. You need a powerful energy healer that can get in there and pull it out. But for you, this lifetime is to experience the talking sticks, to experience the dream worlds, so you can self-heal yourself. So ultimately, you'll be able to teach it to other members of your soul family.
Okay.
Well, there's more here. There's past life information that's coming forward. Direct from the War of 1812, where you were a British redcoat outside of Canada, coming in, marching south. I think New Hampshire. I'm sorry, no, there's a big lake that's over there, and that was something where you had to build a ship that went down a big lake into a river, and you died at that point. I think that's where Benedict Arnold was actually. It's very reminiscent in the Akashic record here. And when you died there, you took a musket ball to the head, and you fell over into the water and sunk to the bottom, and no one ever mourned your loss. And when that person died, he realized the revolution, he was on the wrong side, that he was on the side of domination and control. That's the last time you ever went into the negative life aspect, and since that time, your soul's been completely 100% free. So you've lived many lifetimes since then, though some of them were short. You lived a free life. In this lifetime now, the darkness has done whatever it can do to draw you back into the drama. But that lifetime of the soldier that fell to the bottom of the river will make sure your soul never forgets that to be on the right side of freedom is to empower yourself to stand up and defend, life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness, to understand that patriots can be co-opted, and that the co-opted patriot is the person that truly needs to be healed with the wisdom that you already have.
Wow. That's interesting. Yeah, I'm kind of resistant to dominating forces. Maybe I'll learn my lesson.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any questions about that? Do you have any questions?
Well, it kind of parallels a little bit my family history on the father's side came in through Canada down into Ohio from like Guernsey Island.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not that it's linked up, but it's kind of in the same area.
Mm-hmm. What did they do when they came in? What was their title or job? Were they shoemakers, horse people?
I think they were farmers.
Hmm?
There in Ohio. A bunch came into the same area.
And where'd they come from? Canada?
Originally, I think Guernsey Island, off of France and off of England.
Okay.
Don't know much about my mom's side.
You ever try to do a family tree?
Yeah. But mainly on my dad's side, I was more interested in that. It's kind of an interesting story.
Mm-hmm.
So don't know much about my mom's side.
Okay. Well, it might be very beneficial for you to go back and do a family tree. I mean, with the types of resources that are on the internet now, Ancestry.com makes it very easy. It's just a matter of self-sacrifice of time to go in there and learn.
Yeah. Yeah, I could pick that up. Mm-hmm. Well, that's been interesting. So you think there's a twin brother's kind of a guardian angel looking out for me?
Guardian angels are something different. He was literally supposed to be your twin this lifetime, so he's operating under very, very special rules. So he can function very different than a guardian angel. He'll actually be able to manifest directly in front of you, whereas your guardian angels, you actually have to manifest them.
Huh.
And I'm really sensing that he's already manifested it before, and he's protected you before. There was a very high drama part of your life where he came in as somebody that was, how do I put this? He was impersonating another friend that you had that wasn't actually in the area at the time, and he made sure that you weren't going to get into a fight with someone else that was going to lead you into a high drama section. Something about a girlfriend being stolen. This would have been in your early 20s.
Well, I can't place that. I had several girlfriends, so.
Was one of them a very high drama girlfriend?
Was. I think later in the 30s. I'll have to think about that some. I am not real impulsive, but I probably felt the loss at the time.
Okay. Well, his purpose was to diffuse the energies of other people that were going to draw you into drama.
Okay.
So he actually manifested and prevented that soul family energy from creating drama that would have gotten you into a physical fight, that would have kept you locked into that incarnation pattern.
Well, that's good to know somebody's looking out for me.
Oh, yeah.
I've traveled quite a bit, got into quite a few weird situations, so I'm glad somebody was watching out in front of me.
Is there anything you wish to share with us in some of these weird situations?
I'll tell you one that's weird. I was on a farm once, and it was kind of a hippie farm, say. And the leader there got fed up with what I was saying and attacked me. He pointed at me and said, "No, it's going to be this way." And almost tried to stop my heart. And I thought it was very weird But on the other hand, I realized I had to do something, so kind of got behind it, and I don't know, psychically or whatever, repulsed this force, and he kind of jumped back, and that's kind of when I realized that there's a lot of things going in the background that we're not really cognizant.
Right.
It was a very shocking situation that somebody had that much control over you without even touching you.
Mm-hmm. And that's another energetic being that was trying to draw you into the drama, and if you had let it happen, you would have led a very negative life path. It wouldn't have killed you, it would have turned your heart dark.
Huh.
That is the purpose. That person was actually possessed by a parasitic entity. That's its purpose. Once it gets into your heart, it can lay parasitic entities inside your heart, which will begin to eat away your heart petals of your lotus heart.
Well, yeah, I could tell that sticking around there was not a very positive place.
Mm-hmm.
But it also gave me a sense of confidence that I could defend myself.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, I've got another caller on the line. If you want to call back another time or get a hold of me for a private reading on my website, andrewbartzis.com.
Great. And thank you for all the information, Andrew.
You are very welcome. Take it easy.
I really appreciate it. All right.
The last time I did a stream lead on the Philippines is when the hurricane hit there. And then I did some subsequent ones on Malaysia. We'll bring that immediately in, the Philippines. Hold on a second here. Just let me scan through the energies here, the Philippines. 1397, 4 epochs. The Philippines is broken up into a series of islands. Each island has its own locus reality. And when I look at the membrane of each locus reality and how each and every part is put together, there is a disconnection amongst the main islands, the communication islands. There's a massive attempt to reintegrate the Vatican sacred geometry in all throughout that area. And that is what is beginning to show in the beginning of the stream read here. So let me see. We're on Manila. We got ships coming in. We got massive freighters. We got 2 storms to the south. What I'm doing is now reading the potential here, and I'm backing out. Philippines, Malaysia, 3 crossover timelines. So there is a potential over the city of Manila where the 3 sacred geometry grids are overlying. You have the Vatican, you have the Muslim expression, and then you have what essentially is the New Age movement that's trying to make an island hold there. Each of these 3 time streams are trying to take over DNA lineages in and around the Manila area. And what it means is taking over DNA lineages, more memories from somebody else's lifetime suddenly flood into your body, and your body has to process those, and then your brain and heart must make a determination if those are your real memories or if those are just memories the system has given you. And if you consent to those memories, it'll be very, very difficult for you to see as new belief systems start coming through to you as systems begin integrating soul shards into those different DNA lineages. This is the time where true propaganda can hijack a lineage into a belief system of negativity or a belief system of positivity or neutrality or a whole new different expression. There is a tremendous failure inside the government there. Like many other countries, they're holding on tooth and nail to cover up some massive, massive financial scams that have gone and centered in the Philippines. Some of these financial scams got so rampant, many of the Eastern European mafia families had gotten involved in these scams and were scammed themselves by them, and the Filipino government didn't shut down these organizations. They let them brew basically these kid farms where they're on the internet running these professional scams. And that is a major, major piece of ancestral karma the entire Philippine network is dealing with. Part of the degradation of that entire islands was to bring the black market of all oceans there, because it is a massive sacred environment. It is what should have been the sacred lands of Lemuria, is what survived there. There's technology all over the place there. Underneath the waters of the islands, if the waters recede little less than 70 or 100 feet, there would be massive temples and underground temples and tombs that would be available to be seen all throughout those islands, including Malaysia and Bali and into the Australian areas. That would have been their highest parts of their mountains and their sacred places in those Philippines. It would have been called Rakchiatoy in the Lemurian tongue. Let's see, what else do I got here? That's not going to make sense. So when I look at the country of the Philippines, I look at its political structure, I look at its government energy structure. It's three separate debts the sacred geometry system is trying to create, and then the people that the total potential of the people that are considered part of its citizenry battery energy, which they can call on, and the citizen people have no more energy to give. This means they're going to be doing the blood from the stone scenario, where they're going to attempt to do mediocre to higher level kundalini feedings, which will force people back into seizure sleep. What seizure sleep is, their awakening body suddenly goes into a seizure and falls back to sleep for several days, several hours, several minutes, or several years, depending on the level of the seizure. And this is because the heart is rapidly disconnected from the sacrum. At the same time, there's scalar weapons that are disturbing the solar plexus from the capability of making a nervous system that has the right part of your body language and soul language behind the body language. So that's an example of what's going on in the Philippines. I can go deeper if there's some specific questions.
Brisbane from
Sacred geometry. It's directly linked to the Vatican. Same link in Malaysia and the Philippines. Keep going. Auckland. Falls Church. Quake Line. Separate timeline. Bush 2. Clone 4. All right, I'll push it a little bit. What I'm doing here is trying to look at how Auckland, New Zealand, which is separate of the sacred geometry system of Australia, though it is linked through these spiritual contracts to be part of the court system there, though the court system of there does not have the same ability to put psychic debt on its people. Now, Falls Church was an attempt to create a way of creating psychic debt on the people. It didn't work. There was a scenario where a timeline incursion was done to create a specific earthquake in that specific place on another timeline. And what they were going to try to do is grab all the people that experienced the destruction and force those soul shards into the people on this final graduation timeline in attempts to mass control that land, because there's a whole bunch of womb chakras that are in there. There's a cluster of 12 womb chakras all throughout New Zealand. And Auckland is a very key sacred space in which natural order shamans connected to the land, or those connected to natural order technology, can trigger a pretty big surge in the earth menstrual field, which could and eventually pop the cork that is Syria. If Syria finishes its full awakening and the cork is popped above the womb chakra over there, there'll be all the other womb chakras will open very fast, but Auckland, New Zealand is number 2. Now, because it's number 2, and number 2 doesn't work unless number 1 works, unless you have a secondary layover sacred geometry system, which is what they're doing now. There's been a negative, we'll just call them dimensional force, that has attempted to take over their land through military, through agriculture, and attempt to change the surface locus reality. At the same time, bring in other locus reality things into this environment to make sure it stays very haunted. So any of those people there that are natural ghost hunters or psychics will have a very, very difficult time being in that area unless they're in ancestral resolve, meaning they are karmic neutral beings, but still allow for karmic resolution for those around them, and they aid those in karmic resolution and karmic retribution. More about Auckland, New Zealand, so that means it's timeline 2, Bush Clone 4. Bush Clone, I rarely get into Bush clones or cloning. It's when they clone someone because they made a different choice in a timeline, and they needed to erase that part of that light body frequency, so the light body never actually remembers what it did unless it can go back to the Akashic record and look what it did. So clone number 4, that means Bush 2 made 4 separate decisions that altered his dimensional timelines, which mean he could not succeed as a president. He did something that was bad. So the 4th clone is what's going on with Auckland, New Zealand, so that is directly related to DHS, their own version of Homeland Security. So there's probably some type of secret police force being formed in and around the Auckland, New Zealand area. And if you look for the really obvious signs of Agenda 21 at the United Nations, they boldly printed everywhere, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about, New Zealand. So just a second as I'm looking for different parts of the world here. We have the solar flare coming in on the north and the south pole, Aurora Borealis going active, New York City and new negative sacred geometry, Toronto negative sacred geometry, Florida. So the eastern sacred geometry seawall is up, the western sacred geometry seawall is up. So this is now the battle for the weather of the Atlantic Ocean, battle for weather of the Pacific Ocean, as the multiple layers of technology that are spread throughout all the remaining underwater bases in the Caribbean and the Pacific. They're all going active. These are underwater versions of HARP. The HARP has underwater and above ground and satellite versions of this different expression. So this is the part where the remote underwater HARP bases go active. We've got a significant amount of work going through Diego Garcia. Whatever that they were doing there in the last 48 hours was some serious timeline incursion stuff. It looks like Bush Clone 4s are coming through. A couple of weeks ago I spoke about what Bush Clone 4s were relating to Auckland, New Zealand. What this means, there's a contingent of Bush cronies that are trying to institute earthquake propaganda. It's just something that was built into our awakening process, that they wanted to use earthquakes to put us into fear. And once we were in fear, our own stress and hesitation and co-creation would create the earthquakes in your local environment. Even if it was something as minor as a 2.0 earthquake, you still would have been manifested, which would have caused greater disaster to the earth. Those have pretty much been averted, though those personalities in the timeline still need to be cleaned up. We have major psychic storms going out throughout the southern United States. Texarkana, Alabama, Louisiana area. You're going to be having a rather unique rise to Halloween. There is so much energy that has been built up over the last few years with the oil disaster that was there, that has caused a major amount of loss of life at the animal level that doesn't have a proper shamanic crossover. Too much of the food chain and the ecosystem died off at the ancestral level, which started an extinction process. For those people that live in this area during the Halloween times, you're going to be having very dense energies. Your animals and pets are going to be acting extremely strange, almost as if there was a hurricane in the distance. Even if it was 4 or 5 days away, you're going to be seeing the looks in your animals' eyes that this is a psychic hurricane that's going on there. And there's not much one can do when you're under the eye of the psychic hurricane like that, other than being environmentally aware, making sure that the psychic winds that whip up do not drop dense energies on your home or on your property. and that you yourself, when you enter and leave your property, that you actively observe yourself where dense energies could be sticking on you, so that your pets don't have issues going through this different dimensional expression of a hurricane. As I'm going north up the Mississippi, I'm seeing major tension between the military, the East Coast military expression and the West Coast military expression. This is something that's on the contractual basis for the United States to be great. There's going to be an East and a West, and there was supposed to be a splitting of the United States during Lincoln's era. Lincoln was going to split it with some of the Chinese aristocrats at that time, when in fact it turned out that the Chinese aristocrats, their money was just ended up stolen, and their people were enslaved to do the railroads over there. So that part of the contract never happened, but the energetic rituals that were done on the Oriental side still, there's enough powerful Asiatic expression personalities living in West Coast cities that they can make a major shift between what East Coast military and West Coast military politics look like. And this is how the sacred geometry system is tearing itself apart. It's two sets of maggots pulling on the same force, and those forces are now going through their separation of densities and making their initial loyalty checks. Who is good and who is bad? There's no determination of who is good and bad because they're all intermixed. That's the nature of compartmentalization system. As I go more north into the Great Lakes, into the Canada regions, there's a whole big mess load of stuff coming out of Calgary. I haven't seen something like this in Calgary, I don't know, for about 4 or 5 years now. There was some kind of big gathering there. What is this? It was in an underground mine outside of Yellowknife, the De Beers mine. There's a big... Ooh, this is strange. Hold on a second. I don't usually encounter this. Ooh, screen even shifted. All right, there's a psychic vault around this. Just give me a second. Let me just go back in history before it was created. Ooh, I've got timeline watchers on me. Gone. Where are you? It's all right. I'm gonna stay on the stream. Here we go. Popped it back out of time. September 3rd, 1813. What is this? This vault was created September 3rd, 1813. This has got... What I'm doing now is filtering through all of this information, discovering if something's trying to use light body programming. There was a major, we'll just describe it, sky watching phenomena during that period of time, which makes it very easy. The phenomena that people saw in the sky at that point in history would be light body programming. And when I see psychic vaults set up like this around something, they're usually trying to obscure something in timeline. This is not its original creation date, but it has timeline creation dates to try to anchor something else here. So this is something new that was brought into the timeline. And there was a bunch of people that met in this vault. I'm tracking each of these people back. Yeah, you guys can't get away from me. There we go. I'll track back. And here we're inside the vault. It's not a vault. It's a massive psychic vault protecting a crystalline structure that's a vessel, Arcadia and Akucha. Ooh, this is a war vessel. All right, I got it back out of this. All right, never mind. All right, everyone, we're just going to move on to the next subject. Let me just seal this up. All right, I'm moving towards the west coast. Moving towards Nome, Alaska, going into the ocean currents.
All right, I'm tracking ocean currents to Fukushima. Massive amounts of self-deradiation vessels here operating right at the dew point layer of the sea. So whenever the sea goes through a bubble change for every rise and fall of the sun, there is a ground effect layer of moisture that very thin craft that could be several millimeters thick but could be several hundred meters long. Very porous. These are specific three-dimensional craft, but with a two-dimensional concept behind them that are there that are filtering out the radiation that's bouncing, the strontium radiation that's bouncing off of the surface water, staying in activity. And there's a massive amounts of these in the Pacific Ocean that are using the rise and fall of the sun to gather as much of the radioactive particles that are still trapped in this reaction layer right above the surface of the water. There's a significant amount of saline reinventalizers vessels in the Atlantic and Pacific current orders, heading toward Guam. Underwater bases still being repaired. We're heading over to Japan. I don't want to look at Japan, it's ugly. There we go. Hong Kong. The riots in Hong Kong, we're not even going to call these riots. Hong Kong. Major political turmoil, major economic turmoil. Sacred geometry system is breaking down, secondary sacred geometry system broken down, so there was a significant internal attack against sacred geometry systems, and the people that were called up to be sacred geometry repairmen are in major political dramatic scenarios as they're being pulled left and right. There was a major incursion at the Chinese sacred geometry wall, which affected the Lao dynasty and timeline genocide. So some of the things that have been going on in the last 3 days about timeline reincursions, about bringing the Lao So Yao clan back, and it's a way to bring Lao Tzu's actual philosophical DNA back into this area, this timeline, though they don't, the system of domination and control that's in the Asiatic area doesn't want Lao Tzu's DNA stream back because that would be very detrimental to their philosophy. India, Bahrain, what are we doing over there? This is an example, like everywhere in the Akashic record world, all that matters is me to get in there and filter the actual pieces of information. There we go. Are we getting any questions from the chat room?
No, everybody's saying they're amazed at what you're doing.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to slow this down and back out, disconnect all those cords that were in Calgary at Yellowknife, erasing it from history. There we go. So this is, every now and then I run into something like I did in Calgary. It was just best not to go any further on that particular subject matter. Sometimes you just don't want to see. That was pretty intense when I popped up into Canada. Usually only see vaults like that around really big stuff.
Starshy was commenting that the energy issues in Canada, the energies have been really, really messed up. A lot of people are feeling it.
That's because you're dealing with a second sacred geometry system and two forces that aren't exactly the best guys but aren't exactly the worst guys, creating alternate sacred geometry systems with the intentions of being domination and control. That's why I said it's like two sets of magnets pulling on the same thing. So, you know, you were used to one false sacred geometry system. Now you have two. And that's in Canada. And that's when they set up the false flag and they triggered it at the Sergeant of Arms level, activated all the Patriot program. It brought Canada under the second sacred system.
Okay, so coming back to your stream read, this is a really, really fascinating question. And why I want to ask this question is because they were talking about a phenomenon that they seem to be witnessing there. Can you, if possible, please do a read on Madagascar and or Corsica Islands? The islands seem to be moving.
They are moving. Well, Madagascar is its own bubble of reality that they have been trying to force the sacred geometry system to be impressed into the lands for a very long time. It doesn't work. Corsica is moving because of spiritual contracts, as well as Malta and a number of the other islands, because a part of the timeline traveling they needed to reset some of the sacred geometry grids, and that means the island had to move for it to line up to the geometry just right. As for Madagascar, I will do a specific stream read on Madagascar once it's figured out what timeline it's going to be in. When I look at Madagascar now, there's a tremendous amount of merfolk all around that area that are calling in many of their brethren from other oceans to come there as photonic light beings or remote projections to begin to hold space for a whole new generation of merpeople souls that are going to be coming in. And the way merpeople souls work is instead of it coming into a fetus verse, it comes and shares a body with the mother or their father for a few years. And then sometimes even it'll share in the body, and then it'll meet the father afterwards and then share time with the body and the father, and then they'll have a child afterward. There's a humongous migration of brand new merfolk soul coming in. So there's this chance that the mothers and fathers are going to meet their children before they have their children. So when I get a more balanced understanding of Madagascar, I'll do a specific stream read on that. I hope that helps for you right now.
Coming back to also, there was one person that was just, in the chat room stating that they felt something where they were, I think it was Calgary, and they moved. And within 3 months of making that decision, everything fell into place, and they moved, and everything's being really good for them. So they were wondering if that was the right move. I mean, obviously it was after this reading. So just a side note there. And then one person asked, when you close the records on Calgary, does that mean it will still happen, what you saw?
I just closed it off so it doesn't look back at me.
Okay.
It's very important when people realize when I'm looking at something in the Akashic record, you can set up warnings to your system if something's looking at you in the Akashic record. And I made sure that if anything that's monitoring that psychic vault system couldn't see me. That's why I went back to before it was created, and I realized they created a vault around that and an image around it to obscure people in Akashic record reading, unless they have a density and skill like I do, where I can go back to even before it was created and track every single human being that's ever been on that section of land until I found out a point in which they actually brought this vault in from a future time completed. It wasn't actually constructed. And once I saw that, I just had to break down the timelines and track back all the people so I could figure out what it was about. And I made sure all the places that I tracked and photonic imprints that I put over suddenly evaporated and disappeared, so nothing can find its way back to what I'm doing. Is there a show that is recording this that I'm doing? Yes. Can the NSA systems make an association of the psychic vault over there versus me describing it over here? Probably not. What are they going to do if they go? Nothing. I do things like this all the time. I'm just respectful about pushback that can come if I just go into the bowl in the china closet and I start uncovering things on the live air that I shouldn't be talking about.
Shouldn't be talking about brings me to the next question, because a lot of people think it's taboo, where we totally disagree with that.
You were doing these world scans, right? And I've got all them because I've done the regions of the world. I've been working on that sort of theme as well, and there's some really good overall scans. And you did this reading, or you did a stream read of the world, and then you get into Calgary, and there was a De Beers mine with a ship that was in a vault, and you did it on air. It's like, oh, okay, I'm going to back out of this, and the guy comes on, and he goes, oh, do you need me to do like the 40 seconds of a day? And it's like, nah, I'm in high frequency. If I go into a vault like that, I'm pretty high frequency, dude. So let's get on with it. So
So what was it? I was scanning and I was doing a world scan and I found a ship inside a.
You were.
Just.
Yeah, you went the whole east coast of America, all the sacred grid and stuff like that. You went the west coast, and then you went, I think, like, you went to Madagascar, or let me just find it, because there was a couple shows where you did those sort of regional routes.
Right, because somebody asked me to do it. Somebody physically asked me to do it.
Yeah.
Because I wouldn't do those because it would just be updates and fear porn. That's the way it would be perceived. So I just allowed people to ask me to do it. Yeah.
Yeah, you went into Calgary, and then you went, like, I actually went and researched, because you said it was, there was a big meeting going on in Calgary. What's this about? Then you scanned in, and it's like, oh, there's a mine, a crystal ship, like a war vessel, you know.
Yeah, it's mine. Yeah.
You know what? And I've gone and researched, like, had a look at Calgary and De Beers, all right? Because what happened was De Beers, since then, they've actually relocated their head office in Canada to Calgary. and then, all right, they've actually shut that mine down because they said it was unprofitable, and they flooded it. But it's like, nah, they've isolated it, and they got all their shit going on in there, you know.
Warship, yep.
So it's like, oh, we can't make profit off of this. We'll shut the mine down, and then we'll get our scientists in, and we'll go and do our stuff, you know.
Yeah.
So they've relocated their whole head office, De Beers, to Calgary in Canada.
Mm-hmm.